Racing's racing. You line them up, you let them go, and I'm glad NASCAR didn't step in and throw a bunch of BS debris cautions all day long to try to, make a show out of it. So everybody just kind of gonna have to live with it.
I think I can say those words really describe how I feel about this Richmond race that just happened. So, the Xfinity Series and the Cup Series went to Richmond. The Xfinity Series kicked off their playoffs with this race, and the Cup Series second race of round number 1 after the Wild Las Vegas race. The Xfinity race was really, really good. The beginning part especially, where it was just, I think, 4 or 5 cars bound for the lead, all pretty equal, all using different lanes. It was really like they were all pretty equal. No one really had an advantage until Hemrick finally got out front. He pulled away. He ended up winning stage 1 as Allgaier, I think, was really holding everyone back. But it showed that Hemrick, Allgaier, Bell, and Junior, if they all really, were kind of put together, they could, they could battle with each other depending on, of course, how long the run was. Allgaier's car seemed to be a little bit better on the shorter run. Junior and Hemrick seemed to come in a little bit longer on the run, and then Bell seemed to fade off a little bit later in the run. Stage 2, Junior just kind of took off there. He got by all the drivers in front of him. He took off. He ended up winning stage 2 under yellow as, once again, the 60 car has just had the worst luck. Ty Majeski wrecked down the backstretch after contact with his teammate Ryan Reed. Obviously, Majeski wasn't happy about that, and that's the 60 car's, I believe, 23rd wreck or spin this season. I mean, that's crazy. The 60 cars had no luck this season. It just showed, once again, really nothing Majeski was doing wrong. He just was trying to get by a lap car, and his teammate cooked him, and he hit the wall hard. Like, once again, another horrible angle, just like at Vegas. Horrible angle to hit the inside wall, especially at Richmond. Pretty hard hit. Even after the caution, Junior took off. He was pulling away, and with about 30 laps to go, it was he and Hemrick. Hemrick had closed the gap to under a second, mostly due to lap traffic. Once again, I think the 21 and the 88 were pretty equal cars. Maybe the 88 was a tick faster, maybe the 21 was a tick faster here and there, but it just seemed like overall they were pretty equal. One lap the 21 would be faster, next lap the 88 would be faster. It looked like it could come down to those two depending on the circumstances, depending on lap traffic. However, as Junior was starting to pull away again, a yellow flag came out, which in my mind I was pretty mad about. Looking at it on race view from Junior's point of view, it looked like the 15 just got up into the wall, got a little high through 1 and 2, got up into the wall, brushed it, and then the yellow came out. In my mind, that's really quick reaction to throw a caution for, and that's something that everyone has really gotten mad about in the past. At Watkins Glen, when Jimmy Johnson spun and there was no caution late in the race, but earlier in the race Almirola spun, there shouldn't have been yell for Almirola because he obviously got going again. Same with Jimmy. But they threw a yell for Almirola, and I don't know why they did, but that's pretty much inconsistency on their part. Drivers get up and brush the wall every single race, and there's not yellows for that every single race. It just happened so that the 15, it was Catherine, I forget how to say that, but it was Catherine. She was driving the 15 car, and it's her first time in an stock car, so obviously it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve. She spun out earlier in the race, and then here, I'm guessing she just got loose. She just maybe misjudged the corner or something, got up into the wall. And really, it shouldn't have been a caution. She just brushed the wall. She had some right side damage. It's not like the tire was down or anything. Obviously, if there was debris, they could have thrown it. But also, you don't throw the caution immediately for debris. You wait and you look for debris. You have your spotters look and see. But I mean, there have been so many times cars have gotten into the wall. At Bristol in the Cup race, who was it riding around on a rim? Paul Menard was riding around on a rim without a tire, and they never threw yellow for it. At Indianapolis, Alex Bowman had a flat tire. They never threw yellow for it. Last season, in this Richmond race last season, remember that horribly officiated race where Matt Kenseth locked up the tires and then the yellow came out because they thought there was a wreck because of the smoke, and then the ambulance was out and it kind of ruined Kenseth's night and Boyer and all that. And then remember late in the race when I think it was Derek Cope got out to the outside wall and then they threw the yellow for it, even though it probably shouldn't have been yellow. It cost Truex the win because he got wrecked on the final restart. Yeah, everyone was mad about that. And once again, they threw another yellow for a car getting up to the wall. And I think it kind of goes back to that last race where I said, damned if you do, damned if you don't type things. If that happens and they don't throw the yellow, it's rigged for Dale Jr. If, that happens and they throw the yellow, well, then it's an unnecessary yellow. Once again, I don't think NASCAR is in any, win situation no matter what they did there. Maybe they did what they had to, I don't know. But in my mind, it probably shouldn't have been yellow. I'm probably a little biased towards that, considering my driver does get to race one race a season. I don't know if he's ever going to have a race like he had here tonight or a few nights ago where he was running up front, he was running competitively. But that yellow comes out, ends up we have pit stops, so the drivers have one more set of tires left, and obviously with about 20 laps to go, you're going to put those tires on and you're going to get going. So everyone comes down pit road. Coming into the pits, Junior had a really early entry into the pits. He was kind of like, he was really close to a pit entry. and he ended up, wow. He ended up almost getting spun into his pit stall as Daniel Hemrick, I don't think, really realized that Junior was that early, so that cost Junior some time. Then his pit crew was a little bit slow, cost him some time. Matt Tifft ended up winning the race off Perro. Junior was second, and then on the restart, Junior really messed it up. He had one of his patented Junior restarts that he always used to have earlier in his career, where he would really just, fade back. He fell back to fourth before another yellow came out. They went 4 wide down the backstretch, and Justin Allgaier got wrecked in turns 3 and 4, which really kind of hurt his points position. He's still in a good position, but it's, that's kind of not what you want to have heading into the Roval. But they spent hours, and it just felt like hours, laps upon laps, cleaning the debris up on pit road and all that. And it ended up, they only had like 10 laps left to restart. Bell got away as he passed Matt Tiffany, and Bell ended up winning the race. Once again, he swept Richmond this season. Same with Kyle Busch in the Cup Series. He swept Richmond. The 20 and the 18, sweeping Richmond in 2018. It's pretty ironic. But Bell ends up winning. He's now into the next round of the chase. And, not much happened there. It was a fantastic race, though, I must say. It was the better race of the weekend for sure. I could probably rate it a 10 out of 10, maybe a little less than a 10 out of 10, but maybe the caution dampers it down to like a 9.8 out of 10, but still, great race, and it was cool to see Junior competitive in a car again. Obviously showed he still had the competitive edge if he was put in the right circumstance, and maybe if he wasn't racing all the time, because I think if I had 50 concussions and I was racing a full season, I probably wouldn't be pushing it as hard either. So I think it showed if he was put in the right position with the right car, he could probably perform well. He led the most laps. He could have won it if there wasn't for another yellow, but we don't know. Maybe he would have blown tire if there wasn't, if that yellow didn't come out. Who knows? But on to the Cup race now. It was a lot less than everyone was playing it up to be. Everyone was kind of like, oh, short track in the playoffs, this will be great. It wasn't anything special, I'll tell you that, but it also wasn't horrible. Basically, throughout the race, there was one incident in the race. Well, 2. I guess you could say there were 2 incidents. This kind of leads back to the caution thing. Coming off turn 4, Stenhouse had come down pit road. There's this whole thing where you could either go the whole way in the stages and not pit, or you could break the stages in half, get tires, and then try and move up. Stenhouse split the stage in half, got tires. He was coming through cars that were slow, obviously on older tires. Hamlin was one of them, and he ran Hamlin over, coming off turn 4. Hamlin somehow saved the car. He was completely sideways. No yellow came out for it. Pretty surprised there, considering they threw a caution for a car in the wall, but that's past the point, though. Hamlin did a great save. The fun thing about it, though, was that set up some strategy. As Truex was leading, he was kind of pulling away. Harvick wasn't really going to get to him. Hamlin had to come down pit road because he flat spotted the tires. Obviously, he was sideways. He had to do everything he could to save the car. And that ended up flat spotting a tire. He had to come down pit road, and that kind of ruined their strategy. They were going to stay. They were going to stay out trying to get stage points. But it ended up being he still got stage points. He battled back to get a lap back, and then even after getting the lap back, he got up and battled inside the top 10. I think he got 9th on the stage. He got 2 stage points. So that was pretty cool on Hamlin. That was one of the more exciting parts of the race. Stage 2 is more the same. Drivers doing that half thing, the half strategy. Logano was one of the main people that did that. Same with Clint Bowyer, Ryan Blaney, and a lot of other playoff drivers. They did that strategy. They're going to try and play it out. They're going to try and do whatever they could. Logano worked out the best for him. He ended up getting 1 stage point. But a big thing about the race, Blaney barely got his lap back. Same with Clint Bowyer. Bowyer was about half a lap away from not getting his lap back, so he was very lucky that he did get his lap back. That actually plays into it a little bit later on because he comes home with a decent finish. So basically what happened was, some drivers were really struggling. Blaney was struggling big time. Kurt Busch, the second half of the race, I don't know where he went, but he struggled hard. I don't think he was top 10 in the second half of the race at all. And Clint Bowyer was struggling pretty bad as well. He, second half of the race, he kind of came back to life. But, I mean, he was like a 20th place car, 20th, 15th place car. He never really was anything special all race long. So he was having some pretty big issues all race. Same with Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch, the first half of the race, he was barely a top 10 car. It looked like he wasn't even going to have a shot to win. He ends up winning the race, just like what he did in the spring. But final stage happens. Martin Truex Jr. on one of the pit stops, he had an uncontrolled tire penalty. So his pit crew had a slow pit stop, and then an uncontrolled tire penalty puts him at the back of the pack. Jimmy Johnson earlier in the race had a speeding penalty, put him at the back of the pack. Eric Jones, a playoff driver, also had some issues. They all went to the back of the pack. Truex ends up rebounding to finish third. That was a pretty exciting part as well. Him coming from the back to the front to end up third. Jimmy Johnson came from the back. He ended up a top 10. He had, at points, race-winning speed, top 5 speed. He was consistently a top 5, top 7 driver in terms of lap times on the racetrack. It was pretty cool to see the 48 car pretty fast. Chase Elliott. over the long run. He was really fast as well. He got to the lead for a few points during the race on the longer runs. However, the shorter runs really hurt his car. He ended up fourth, though. I mean, it looked like he was not going to finish top 5, so he got fourth. That was a decent day for Chase Elliott again. But couldn't get to the win as Kyle Busch ended up winning the race. Kevin Harvick ended up second, just under a second behind him. And Martin Truex Jr. charged to end up third. If he had one more caution within those final 10 laps, he would have possibly won the race because he was just that good. This is the first time this season we've talked about the big three all season long, how they've been the best 3 drivers. They're the 3 drivers with the most wins this season. Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch both have 7 wins. Martin Truex Jr. has 4. Brad Keselowski has 3. You could call it the large 4 there. But the big 3, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., had never finished 1, 2, 3 this season until last night. This was the first time this season that they finished 1, 2, 3. And that's actually a pretty impressive stat. I thought they would have done it before, but it kind of just shows how when one's running really well, the other 2 aren't really running that well, and how they haven't really battled at each other much. But it came down to lap traffic at the end. Kyle Busch held off Kevin Harvick. Would have been interesting to see if Harvick could have gotten there if he would have did what he did, allowed him to put the bumper to him. That would have been pretty interesting to see. But that's Kyle Busch's 50th Cup win. That's pretty impressive there. You don't just win 50 Cup wins by accident. Kyle Busch knows what he's doing. He's a great race car driver. Once again, showed here tonight. Came from the back to the front, swept at Richmond. It's just a fantastic drive by him and a pretty decent race. It wasn't like the race earlier in the season where they had battles for the lead all the time and there was a cool finish and whatnot. It wasn't really like that, but it was still a pretty good race in my opinion. I think I would rate it just a little bit higher than Darlington. You think about it, it was a calm race. There was only 1 caution for an incident. The other 2 were stage cautions. And the incident was where Jeffrey Earnhardt getting spun in turn 2 by Matt Kenseth, as Kenseth got really loose under him. And then that was really it. But there was a battle for the lead with about in the final 50 laps between Keselowski and Kyle Busch. Keselowski was using the higher side. Busch was on the bottom. Busch was obviously a lot better. I mean, you just tell Busch was a lot better. But Keselowski was using that high side to his advantage, where he could just get the runs off the corner. Kyle Busch would pull even with him through the corner, but he just could not get the gas down because Keselowski was on his outside. You can't run over the guy as much as Busch would have wanted to because they hate each other. But so it ends up, Keselowski goes up there trying to hold off Busch. He wears off his tires. Busch kind of lays back, saves the tires. He gets on by Keselowski. Keselowski falls to 9th. He's looking for 4 wins in a row. It would be the first time since 2007 with Jimmy Johnson. Keselowski, though, falls to 9th. Obviously, with those rear tires getting worn off, he couldn't hold on. Barely got a top 10. He barely beat Bowyer for 9th. As Bowyer ended up 10th. That was a great recovery for Clint Bowyer. Once again, I think he's on the outside looking in, hanging to the Roval. That's not where you want to be. Another driver to talk about, Austin Dillon, I'll talk about him a little bit later, but he ended up top 10, almost a top 5. He almost passed Almirola at the end to get top 5. But, this race, it wasn't really, I don't know. People didn't really like it, and I'm kind of shocked by that. I don't know if it's because there's a long green flag run or what, but it just felt like this race was a lot better than some of the races we had this season, and a lot better than, I don't know. It just kind of feels like, going back to Jeff Gluck's poll, this is the only way I can really say this, and maybe even some things I've heard, from people that, on the internet, like on Reddit or whatever, but Darlington was a race which got, I think, around a 70% approval rating. That was a race where Kyle Larson led, I think, 280-some laps? I think he led a lot of laps, let's just say that. Like, Kyle Larson dominated that race, and, maybe it was 100. I don't know. He led like over half the race. He led almost all the race. But he ended up losing the race, and there wasn't really much that happened. I will say, I like Darlington too, but it wasn't like a lot happened. Kyle Larson, he got up front, he pulled away, and the only reason it was pretty exciting was because Jeffrey Earnhardt spun. I mean, that's kind of the only reason this race was kind of exciting. But, I mean, there wasn't really much to Darlington. In fact, I think Richmond was just a little bit better than Darlington in terms of racing. At Darlington, there were 7 lead changes. I'll just tell you that. 7 lead changes. Kyle Larson pretty much led the whole race. Richmond, this last Richmond race, had 16 lead changes. The race at Richmond earlier in the season, 16 lead changes, and I felt like that Richmond race was one of the best of the season. Obviously, this one, I would probably rate it inside the top 10, back after the top 10. I wouldn't rate it really, really high up. I wouldn't rate it really, down low. It was a lot better than a lot of the races this season, but it could have been a lot better as well. It was kind of, for a short track race, it was kind of but for a race overall, it was kind of, it was all right. I wouldn't rate it, a 8 out of 10, maybe more like a 6 out of 10. 6 or 7 out of 10. But it was decent for what it was. I was very glad that they didn't try and interact with cars getting into the wall and throwing yellows or debris yellows or whatever. It's just a pure race, and I think that's what we need. After Las Vegas, which in my mind was a little over the top with cautions and whatnot, NASCAR needed just a calm race, which was good, and I felt like Richmond was that race. It was a calm race. Not much happened to the chaser. Well, I say not much happened to the chaser, but Truex had to go to the back. Jimmy Johnson had to go to the back. Eric Jones had to go to the back. Kyle Busch had to go to the back at the start of the race for improved adjustments. So playoff drivers did have their issues. Clint Bowyer, Ryan Blaney, they battled at the end, but it's not like it was a boring race for sure. There were a lot of exciting moments. Well, not a lot. There were exciting moments during the race. I'll give it that. It's not like it was a bad race, though. I felt like it was still a decent race. It was a solid race. If there's a race I could ever call solid, it was this Richmond race right here. It was a solid race. On to the where some drivers finished. Obviously, Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., 1, 2, 3. Truex led the most laps at 163. Kyle Busch next up with the 92 laps led. Brad Keselowski led 67. Harvick led 40. Chase Elliott led 34. So that's basically the main lap leaders. Some other drivers led due to pit cycles and whatnot. Austin Dillon ended up with the top 10. He ended up 6th. He qualified 26th, so it didn't look like he was going to be great, but his speed during the long run and during the race was pretty good. He ended up 6th, so not bad there. Kyle Larson was very quiet all night. He was a top 10 car. He ended up 7th. Jimmy Johnson, he could have been top 7, top 5 if circumstances went right, but I'm sure he'll take an 8th after Vegas. Once again, that's 2 races in a row. Hendrick Motorsports has brought speed in their 3 chase cars. Keselowski faltered to 9th, and Clint Bowyer somehow found a top 10. Alex Bowman, another Hendrick car, he was top 10 for most of the race, but they probably made some adjustments and made the car bad. He ended up 12th. Logano, 13th. Newman, he performed, all right. He had a speeding penalty, so he ended up 15th. Hamlin was off all race. He ended up 16th. He didn't do much at all. Suarez had to come from the back. He would have qualified, I think, 3rd, but his car failed qualifying inspection, so he ended up 17th. Busch and Blaney both inside the top 20, 18th and 19th. That's obviously not what they want. McMurray, 21st. Byron, 20th. It's really the only major guys. But some big things to talk about. JGR, these last 2 races, these last few races, they have lacked some speed. Denny Hamlin, he wasn't fast at all. This is one of his best racetracks. Eric Jones was fighting to just finish 11th. Daniel Suarez, once he got up to about 14th, he just faltered there. He ended up 17th. And Kyle Busch, even early in the race, he was barely a top 10 car. He ended up winning, though, because they made the right adjustments. They had 400 miles to make the adjustments, and they did it. Congratulations to them. But, I mean, it wasn't like JGR really set the world on fire here. Once again, second race in a row, they really haven't had great cars. Kyle Busch obviously won the race, but other than that, the other 3 were pretty bad. Hendrick Motorsports, same with Las Vegas, they brought their speed back. Hendrick Motorsports at Las Vegas, their 3 chase cars could have easily finished inside the top 10. 2 of them could have easily finished inside the top 5. All of them had some issues. They ended up finishing poorly, but here they kind of rebounded. Chase Elliott, he had race-winning speed at some points, ended up 4th. Jimmy Johnson had race-winning speed at some points, he ended up 8th. Alex Bowman had top 10 speed, top 5 speed at some points, he ended up 12th. So all 3 of those chase cars, they brought good speed. Their average finish among Hendrick Motorsports was 11th here tonight. That equals what JGR's was. JGR's average finish among the 4 cars, 11th. Same with Hendrick Motorsports, 11th for them as well. So they were performing well. Martin Truex Jr., Furniture Racing looked like they're off heading into the chase. It didn't look like they're going to be a factor. These last 2 races, they've had the best cars, and, they kind of shot themselves in the foot, or some yellows came out at unlucky times. But Truex has had some cars to win as well, so he could be a factor hanging in. It looks like he has his speed back. Brad Keselowski had speed once again, top 5 speed, but he was a top 5 car and ended up 9th because he wore the rear tires out. I'm kind of worried, though, about one half of Stewart-Haas Racing, Clint Bowyer and Kurt Busch. They haven't really performed that well, and it's kind of worrying me here at Richmond. Obviously, Kurt Busch performed a little bit better at Las Vegas, but they're kind of in vulnerable positions. Ryan Blaney, he hasn't really had a great time, so we'll see how it goes. But there are some very interesting things in the playoffs, and it's because of the format. The format's not really great. This is where I come to rag on the chase, but I mean I'm serious when I say this. Austin Dillon is about to advance to the round of 12 because he's 10 points above the cut line, heading into the Roval, where we don't know where anything can happen. Drivers who are about to be eliminated: Clint Bowyer, Denny Hamlin, Eric Jones is about to be eliminated. I mean, Eric Jones, some people had getting into the Final Four, getting into the Final 8. He's about to be eliminated because, of 2 wildcard races. It's, insane what this format is. I mean, I don't like it. I don't like eliminating drivers after 3 races. A 3-race season doesn't really set well with me. Jimmy Johnson, he could make this round of 12, and he barely had speed going into the chase to even be in the chase to begin with. I mean, he could make it. Alex Bowman could make it. Bowman was the last driver in on points. He was the driver who's going to get knocked out if someone new won. And he is sitting here like 6 points to the good or something. Blaney is barely to the good. So, I mean, like, I don't know, man. This chase, I just don't know. So, once again, decent race at Richmond. Wasn't really spectacular by any means, but we'll see how the Roval goes. It's either going to be really, really boring or a shit show. I don't think there's going to be anything in between. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys for the next video.